it's really incredible to see each and every one of you here in the room and on Zoom. So much joy and appreciation for all of us on our Dhamma path, doing the best we can. Wouldn't be being completely honest if I didn't say it's slightly overwhelming to the nervous system. Yeah, just so much gratitude, I have to say. Came out of retreat on Sunday evening and lots of tears of gratitude for Samhita providing this space and these requisites, and the community providing our requisites. Requisites are, our food and the donations people give to pay the utilities and just keep this whole thing going. And then unspeakable gratitude to Grace and to Virginia for I'll stop there. And to the board, thank you so much. People stepping out of their comfort zone, some of them to facilitate this group, and everyone coming. It's just wonderful. And tonight I want to, I don't want to overshare, but I would really like to share, openly and vulnerably that culture can use more vulnerability, and you spend 3 months alone and you become already vulnerable. So I might look back and go, what was I thinking? And, well, I wasn't. That was the problem. But anyway. Yeah. So yeah, you're on 3 month retreat. It's a big journey in, it's a remarkable opportunity. Really remarkable, and our conditions were truly wonderful. Really, Grace and Virginia, it was just amazing. Come into the house and it was just happy and smooth and calm, and I don't know what, they just pulled that together like 10 minutes before, but that's how it felt. And
I just make this sure they can hear on Zoom.
Can you hear on Zoom? Yeah, great. Yeah, this journey in Ajahn Brahm, if people know him, wonderful British monk, lives in Australia, very humorous. He talks about boldly going where no one has gone before. So, yeah, that's Ajahn Brahm. That's not mine. Yeah, so I will share personally, and that the hope is that it's useful and helpful. Yeah, I really can't gauge things right now. Yeah, it's 3 months just me, and now it feels like tonight's more me, I don't want to be one of those people that just go on and on and on. We've all had that experience, kind of wrap up with, well, enough about me. What do you think of me? So I hope it's not like that. Yeah. Yeah, I will show personally, but it's also universal. We all have a story, and it's got its particulars, but the main elements, the moving parts are slightly different, but honestly the elements are the same. And we all have hearts that yearn to be open and be safe. This is universal. I'll start with, I've already been talking for 5 minutes. I'll start with, really, it's quite a well-known passage from the scriptures, and it's very cool. It's in the Connected Discourses in Pali Samyutta Nikaya, And it's in the first chapter, which is the book of verses, and it's chapter 7, and it's Sutta 6. I'll just do the beginning of the sutta. And it's really cool. There's 10 suttas all in a row of these Brahmins that are all from the same clan. They're from the Bharadvaja clan. And they're Brahmins, and so they're not Buddhist at this point. And they go, and so you'll hear in what I share, they refer to the Buddha as Gautama, his first name, because at this point they don't see him as Buddha. And every single one of these suttas ends with them becoming ordained and then becoming an arahant. And then the next 12 suttas, it's people from the same clan, other Brahmins going and asking Gautama a question and just being blown away by the wisdom and the clarity and the purity of the answer, and all becoming lay followers. The verses go like this: a tangle inside, a tangle outside. This generation is entangled in a tangle. I ask you, O Gautama, who can disentangle from this tangle? And this is it's clever. This is the Brahmin, and his name is Jata, which is tangle. It's like matted hair. So he's got what's that called? Dreadlock. Thank you. Yeah. And the Buddha answers. The Buddha answers one. I hope I can remember. A little bit anticlimactic. Just give me a second. Yeah. One established on virtue, wise, developing the mind and wisdom. Those ardent and discreet, they can disentangle the tangle. And then the Buddha goes on and describes beings that are fully awakened that have done it. They've already disentangled the tangle. So this tangle, that generation and every generation is entangled in the tangle. And that tangle is universal. And then how it is expressed in each of our human lives is the personal part. And we're all tangled, we're all entangled. And for me, just my particular conditioning, my particular response to samsara, my family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So much of my tangle is in my body. It's physical. It's like, it's just the way it's many things. It's the way I've coped and survived. It's the way I've I've done a lot of pushing down, and a lot of what is very common female conditioning of just swallowing, just swallow that anger, swallow that, all this pressure, share, be a nice girl, et cetera, et cetera. I can go on and on. So yeah, that's where my big knots are. Other people, it's their psychology. Other people, it's their, that it's their, they maybe have addiction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Depression, like we're all, it's the personal, but it's universal. It's just how we're trying to manage suffering, how we're trying to manage pain. So, my meditation teacher is Beth Upton. She said about like slightly more than half of her students, much is lodged in the body. and this is becoming more and more understood by, science and trauma informed therapies. There's books, the body keeps score, etc., etc. There's an interesting example of sort of how some of this happens. I used to work as a speech language pathologist, and when you do that, you learn you learn about all kinds of different speech disorders and challenges in language, etc., etc. And of course, you learn about disfluency, you learn about stuttering, and it's very interesting working with someone that has lived with that neurological conditioning, which is just a motor timing issue, got nothing to do with cognition. But what happens when someone has this, and they're a person living with a stutter, they're disfluent, is that I'm not going to get, I don't want to get too technical, but I mean, we all, sorry, I don't want to say too much. Anyway, they know when they're speaking that a block or a repetition is coming, like nanoseconds before it comes. It's very interesting. And so lots of times their nervous system will do something like, and they'll get through and they'll stay fluent. And then they think that this is really helpful. It avoided that discomfort, that perceived failure that time. And these get called secondary behaviors. And when you work with someone, or if you've ever had the opportunity to be the communication partner with someone disfluent, you'll see these secondary behaviors. They'll do all kinds of different things. And honestly, the secondary behaviors become much more of an issue than the disfluency. If they could just not have any secondary behaviors and have these blocks or these repetitions, it much less atypical. And so I just started to really see lots of the patterns and the way that I've held pain and pretended it wasn't there, et cetera, as my secondary behaviors, and are very problematic, very tight, very frozen, very tense. And I will share something I learned, I came to understand very well on this retreat, was how monasticism is super not helped. It's actually been like a tertiary behavior. And how that's so is because when you enter the robes, just thinking about the body, the first thing you do, and the sutras even talk about it, you go from the householder life to homelessness. And so you give up, your home and your career, your bank account. This is the first chakra. This is survival, and then you take this vow of celibacy. This is the second chakra, and then depending on where you ordain, if it's quite hierarchical, which many places are, you basically give up your autonomy. You just become like doing what you're told, basically, almost reverting to childhood. And this is your third chakra. So it's very, and I'm realizing, I look around monasticism, especially in North America, and I see many people enter the robes, and friends of mine, et cetera, and then get really strange illnesses and have parts of their body just falling apart. And so it's become clear to me, and I've done it, where you sort of cut off, all things that help you be alive and ground you, and give up the autonomy, the third chakra, your solar plexus. Early on, I wasn't permitted to go to my child's wedding. That was just an example, and sorry, that's had a huge impact. Anyway, so it can be, it's not, I don't think it's that uncommon for people to enter monasticism and have this disconnect that can happen, and just sort of floating around and spending all this time, with these upper chakras, and it can be problematic. It's been very, very problematic for me, and I say monasticism hasn't helped until now, and till now it's all worked out. Yeah, very different situation. I'm living with a psychiatrist who did body-centered psychotherapy. It's a very different situation here. Yeah. So, and so the other thing that's become really apparent to me in terms of my own, responses to the challenges that this life has doled out, is just a lot of layers of protection, that are hard and that are tight. Yeah. So there was a pivotal point for me in this particular retreat that actually came before the retreat started. I was having an interview with Beth Upton, and I was sharing more openly. I'd had cancer and taken a long look and realized that I think a lot of that cancer is related to this. It was related to this terrible shame story that I just swallowed and incorporated deeply through my life. I'm sharing openly with her, and it was one of the most tender moments I've had with her. And she just leaned forward and she's like, these messages, these messages of worthlessness and not belonging, they've come from outside, but they're yours now. And that deeply landed, and I realized, yeah, I've completely, I've inherited a lot, and I've just swallowed it all and deeply digested it, and it's my job. This is our Dhamma path. It's my job to disentangle this. This is mine now. Doesn't kind of almost doesn't matter where did this all come from, because you go to your parents or whatever, you go to these terrible stories we all have. They have them too, and then they go, and then our grandparents have them too, and in fact, maybe worse, so Beth Upton, even today in our group interview, because this very topic came up, and she gave an example. It's like, this is samsara, and it hurts, and it's like someone's come in and trashed your kitchen. You have to clean it up. It's your kitchen, you have to clean it up. It kind of doesn't matter who that was, in one sense. And I think this was a pivotal point for me. And this is one thing that often therapy doesn't get to. We're still looking at parent-child, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And bottom line, no blame, but my responsibility now. And I have to deal with this mess. I have to clean it up. Yeah. So, the theme, that was wonderful. I went into the retreat with much of that. And then the theme for my retreat was wise reflection, or wise attention, finally being with this historical, compounded pain without secondary behavior. Yeah. And it's not so bad. In fact, it was amazing to learn, the Buddha, the seminal Buddhist teachings is the Four Noble Truths. They're noble because they're true. When you actually are with what's really there, even if it's awful, if you're really with it, it becomes noble, becomes beautiful because it's so real. And if you've had the opportunity to be with someone as they're dying, sometimes that happens. All the superficiality, all of the not important, it strips away, and then there's just this beauty of realness. The first noble truth, it's not suffering that's noble, but it's the truth of suffering is extremely noble. When you get enough resources, enough wisdom, and a capacity to actually be with it, it transforms, and you disentangle. You start to understand. Oh, I need to pull on this rope. This, and then it starts to disentangle. Yeah, this is something that this wise attention, and really, I talked with Sangamita earlier today. I'm really just speaking about the holding technique that she talks about all the time with, sort of like she's looking from sort of southwest and I'm looking from, southeast, and just slightly different language. And the Buddha certainly is teaching us this. And so much. We get things backwards so much, so many suttas end with, oh, thank magnificent not to go to my, you've turned upright that which was upside down. And this is something that we often get upside down, that we don't understand where the beauty lies. The beauty lies, in the attention, not in what you're attending to. And so we can think, oh, like if my breath was steady and calm, my attention would stay with it. If I had a nimitta, my attention would be steady state. Well, no, you make the attention beautiful, and then what you are attending to will become beautiful. You've got expressions about this. Beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. We have these wonderful cards, Rajam Brahm, downstairs, and one is what you see in others is what they will show you. And the beauty lies here in this attention that is kind and resource, and like, there were times, during the retreat, I'd be like, I'm not gonna leave. I'm not gonna leave what is happening. I'm here. I'm not gonna abandon you. I've abandoned here, like so much, but not anymore. Yeah. And so yeah, this wise attention. There's an incredible passage. Do you mind closing it now? Getting all emotional. There's this really, really beautiful description that the Buddha gives of this. When it's in the middle length discourses in the Majjhima Nikaya, and it's Sutta 125, Danta Bhumi in Pali. Danta meaning trained, and Bhumi meaning ground. It's sort of the ground, you know, of people that have walked this path, and they've had this wise attention, and they've trained their mind, and they show up fully for all of their life, and for those people around them. Yeah. So the Buddha in this sutta, is quite a long sutta, and in this sutta, the Buddha gives this metaphor of this training that we're all doing, and he uses something that was probably quite relatable at the time, not so relatable to us, but anyway, it's about training a wild elephant. Yeah, and so he talks about this, you know, and he goes through every step of basically a gradual training, basically of the Noble Eightfold Path. And he describes this elephant tamer that goes into the jungle and captures this wild elephant and brings it out into the open. This is our initial contact with the Buddha's teachings, with any wisdom teaching, with a spiritual path, you know. And this wild elephant is our mind, our body, our mind, our heart, our conditioning, our problems. Yeah, this is the wild elephant. And then the elephant tamer is this wise attention. It's the instructions of the Buddha, and what we're doing as we meditate. And so the elephant tamer captures this wild elephant, brings it out into the open, and then the training starts. This is our spiritual path. And it's so beautiful. You know, the Buddha talks about the elephant tamer speaks to the wild elephant. This is our wise attention to our wild minds, our wild hearts, our wild desires, our wild bodies. And the elephant tamer speaks gently. I mean, there's this incredible string of 6 adjectives of how to do this wise attention, how to be with our pain, our wildness, our untamedness, our unskillfulness, our unwholesomeness. So the elephant tamer speaks gently, pleasing to the ear, lovable, as go to the heart, courteous, desired by many, and agreeable to many. And in this one paragraph, it goes on to describe the wild elephant. When the wild elephant is spoken to in this way, that he listens, you know, he lends an ear, a wild elephant, and he exerts his mind to understand. And the paragraph goes on to say that when that happens, then the elephant tamer gives the wild elephant fodder and feeds him. And this is that point in our practice where this wise attention, we really feel nourished by it. We really feel the benefit of sitting through something, you know, and working through something. And so beautiful. And the wild elephant eats this fodder, eats this food, gets nourishment. And at that moment, the elephant tamer knows this is going to work. This wild elephant will be tamed and will become worthy of being called a king's elephant. This is our wise attention. This is what we're doing here, you know. Yeah, we're learning how to be with dukkha, learning how to be with suffering, and coming to understand it, and stopping running, stopping dismissing, stopping suppressing, stopping reacting, you know, learning to be with it. And Beth said something else crazy amazing today in our group interview. She said the path is really becoming more and more sensitive to suffering. We come to understand it more and more deeply, and this is why we would become awakened, because we get where we're not interested in it anymore, and we drop it, we let it go, and we disentangle from it, because we start to understand the depth of the suffering. You know, there's 3 levels of this dukkha. The first level is, you know, horrible. You know, it's when we get cancer, it's when we have a child diagnosed with autism, it's when a partner cheats on us. That this is dukkha. This is pain. You know, and we're all living in it now, like this low level numb of the climate and the environment, and yeah, it's pain. And then the next level of this suffering, this dukkha, is what we're really coming to understand when we sit down and meditate, when we start to practice, and we start to be with that wild elephant. And that is the suffering of our hindrances, the suffering of our greed, hatred, and delusion, suffering of our own delusion, our own lack of wisdom, our own unwholesome patterns. And then, you know, when you tame that, this is when then you go into deeper meditation, when these hindrances are starting to be quiescent. And then you come to understand the third level, which many of us are quite far away from. Once you've had many experiences in deep meditation, you start to understand much more subtle level of suffering, which is just existence, just formations, just, you know, everything in the universe is completely in flux, and so there's this agitation, there's this friction. I mean, but you have to have deep meditation to see this, and this is when the mind will release, because, you know, and this is why the Buddha says things like, I'm not interested even in this finger snap of existence. It's all suffering. Yeah. So upbeat. Yeah. Yeah, this wise attention. Beautiful attention. When we start to have beautiful attention, even, yeah, everything becomes can become very beautiful. Yeah. And I can remember early on in the retreat, you know, my heart was really starting to open, and yeah, amazing. And I remember Beth in one interview being like, is there anything arise? This was her question. And this is what I needed to, where I needed to, you know, needed help. You know, she says, is there anything arising that you can't be with? You know, and we get to that point on the path at some point. Is there anything arising you can't be with? And we were deep enough into retreat. No, it's all becoming, even though it's terribly painful, it's beautiful, because I've got this wise attention that is with it. Yeah, and then it starts to transform, and the tangle starts to untangle. Yeah. So I'll end there, and please, anyone that has any questions or comments or anything at all. Well, yeah, there's a few minutes for that. Yeah. Overshare. And Brene Brown, people know about Brene Brown, and she talks about vulnerability hangovers. But I actually think I think it's important, honestly. It's helpful. I will say Beth is extremely open about her path, and it's benefited me greatly. Yeah. And I remember at one interview saying that so much, was coming out, and I was like, if I can meditate, anybody can meditate. And she's like, yeah, I feel the exact same, And earlier in one interview, I'm like, it was really intense, and I'm like, and I was like quite a high functioning human being. And she was like, yeah, I know. It's like you really wonder, how do we get anything done when you start to see what's really there. Yeah. And she was like probably fully OCD, like very, very, very anxious as a teenager and young woman when she started to meditate. She's at Ha'ok in Myanmar, in Burma, which is very, very strict, and she couldn't even keep the schedule, and she would sneak out of meditations and run up and down 5 flights of stairs. So much anxiety, so much nervous energy in the body, and even after she was a nun for 10 years, even after she had ordained as a nun, at one point she snuck out. She'd gotten a hold of a skipping rope, and she was down in a stairwell skipping, like crazy. And one of these senior nuns finds her, and she's like, "Do you want to have a go?" Skipping rope. The nun's like, "What are you doing?" It's wonderful, and she's like very, very far on the path. Yeah.
So
Yes.
well, I'm feeling a lot better for that elephant. I used to hear that story and feel so bad for the broken elephant, thinking that he was being tamed by someone. But what I was going to ask, during this retreat for yourself, you're sort of saying that a lot of things have accelerated. It's a real benefit to be able to get into retreat and being open enough and safe enough to have things come up and face them.
Yeah. Exactly. This is why Beth, that's all she does, is teach long retreats, like 30 days or 45, 3 months, if it's possible. Yeah, very, very useful.
Did you speak to her every day? Or?
No. Like at the beginning, every week and a half, and then the last little bit every week. Yeah, 15 minutes. Yeah.
Your highlight of the week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like not all at once, just one at a time.
So was that the only time you spoke then during the whole retreat, was when you had to interviews?
It probably should have been, but I actually was seeing someone that does body work. Her name is Sarah Harvey. So I saw her about once every 9 days or something like that. And then, it was pretty intense, and so I got extremely constipated early on. So I saw Catherine. Who does, wow, now I'm way oversharing.
No.
We can cut this.
Read Catherine's van is painted on her.
Yeah, dear Catherine, yeah, I sent her an email, I'm like, you probably weren't expecting to hear from me during the retreat, but if there's any way you could help. So, yeah, so I spoke probably like once a week. Yeah, and you know, towards the end, I was seeing Catherine twice a week.
You're
Yes,
also
Mark.
doing some walking meditation?
No, I'm not, no, but I would do Qigong every day, and I would go for a walk pretty much every day.
And
yeah.
just during your walk, you just took a break from meditating?
Yeah, more contemplation. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yes. Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing and being so vulnerable. I was curious about when you were talking about, like putting on the ropes and deciding to go down that path. And kind of maybe some of the negative things that came out of that. Do you think that, like, when you chose to do that, and maybe this would apply for other monastics as well, like you were like searching for something? Or was that more of like what you discovered once you decided to go down that path?
I'm not understanding.
In terms of
your-
like, you know, how you mentioned like the chakras, and the things that you were having to like disconnect from in your body.
Yeah, and that's because, you know, some people that are drawn to the monastic path, it's quite an extreme path, and some are quite idealistic. And so you can, there are, I think it takes a good guide and for someone to help someone like that. Not have the religion, not have the ideals, make things worse, make things more complicated, you know? So you all know this, right? We all have these inner critics, and then it can get louder as a you know, I can't believe I thought that, and I'm a nun, you know, like these kinds of things, you know? And I really didn't understand about the shock. I didn't understand this relationship between monasticism and some of the renunciation and some of the nuances of that. And so there is no problem with the renunciation. It's a wonderful thing. It's great. And you don't want to just cut things off. You want to actually renounce them, you know, that like, and so, yeah, this is one of our challenges with our Dhamma practice, is that we bring our worldly patterns in right with us onto the path. So, you know, yeah, we have so much conditioning around, like, if I try harder, it'll be better and I'll get there faster. Does not work in the Dhamma. It's the opposite. This is like learning to not do, you know. And that's just one example. Have I answered your question? I don't know that I have.
I think so.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
I think you're exactly where you're supposed to be, like, I think it's, yeah, I'm really grateful for you being here and the time that I've had, and it's been extremely powerful in the short time.
yeah.
Had, and yeah, just don't ever question it.
Now, you know, like, because I disentangled that little, well, it was quite a big tangle. Yeah, and you know, and some of it does help tremendously, I'll have to say. Yeah. Yeah, because she gets it all, yeah, like deeply, yeah. And I mean, it's it's just this huge resource that we have, you know, it's not every monastery comes with a 12-month it's an traditional Chinese medicine doctor that gives acupuncture and could do comb therapy. You know, so, yeah. 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 Okay. We'll do a closing, a dedication, and merit, and I have permission. I very, very much would like to for all of us, you know, to share merits of our practice and merits of our aspirations with Silke and her father. Her father passed away, Lutz, on March 16th.
21.
March 21 in Germany. And yeah, let's just really be thinking of Lutz and sending on their way, that they fare well, that they, yeah, that they disentangle. That, you know, we can die and there can still be messy entanglement. And also for Kie's mom, Noriko, who died in January in
January
BC.
16th, yeah.
January 16th, that's right, on the 16th, okay. Yeah, so for Lutz and Noriko and both their families, yes. Yes. Yeah,
I thought you were just gonna do a sharing of merit.
oh, yeah, we'll do
No. Okay, our regular, so what week are we on?
One.
We're on, okay, I don't need the book.
it. Metta, very good for Lutz, Metta.
May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be loving. May you be calm. May you be safe. May no problems come to you. May no difficulties come to you. May no harm come to you. May you meet with spiritual success. May we have the patience, the courage, the strength, the determination, the inner clarity, and the wisdom to meet and overcome the inevitable problems in life, to meet and overcome the inevitable difficulties in life, to meet and overcome the inevitable frustrations in life, and to meet and overcome the inevitable failures in life. May the whole of our hearts be filled with loving friendliness. May every cell of our bodies be filled with loving friendliness. May every level of our consciousness be purified by loving friendliness. May we build a healthy, happy aura of loving friendliness all around us, through which no evil thought, word, or intention, or any form of harm may penetrate, but from which loving friendliness may radiate in all directions. And may we be protected. May the merit of our practice be shared with all sentient beings, named and unnamed.
Lutz and Noriko.
It is these, Claire, Alex, Simon. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you.
That's-